She betrayed me with my best friend, stole $200, $0 from our joint account, and now my estranged sister is suing me for half of my inheritance. This nightmare just keeps getting worse. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be sitting here writing this story, but here I am. It all started with a gut feeling that something was off, and within a few weeks my life turned into a complete nightmare. The most unexpected moment. Finding out my wife, Lisa, wasn't just cheating on me, she was doing it with my best friend, Jake. And it wasn't just a one-time thing. They'd been sneaking around for months, and I only caught on because of a series of small yet telling clues. It began subtly. Lisa had been acting distant, more irritable than usual. She'd brush off my questions, tell me I was imagining things or that she was just stressed at work. But I noticed her phone was always locked, and she'd hide it when I entered the room. She started wearing a different perfume, one I'd never smelled before, and she'd leave her phone with the screen unlocked when she thought I wasn't looking. I didn't want to believe it, but my instincts kept nagging me. One day, I decided to check her phone when she was in the shower. It wasn't about invading her privacy, more like trying to find some peace of mind. I knew I shouldn't have gone through it, but I was desperate. That's when I saw the messages. Texts full of flirtation, suggestive talk, and plans to meet up after work. And there was Jake, my best friend, texting her, "Can't wait to see you tonight, and you look so sexy in that dress." I stared at the screen, frozen, my stomach twisting. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I wasn't sure whether to scream or cry. I sat there, trembling, trying to process what I'd just seen. I knew I had to confront her. I waited until she came out of the shower, her hair damp and her face trying to act innocent. I showed her the messages. Her reaction, she looked surprised, then annoyed, then downright bitchy. She told me I was overreacting, that it was just harmless flirting, that Jake was just a friend, and I was crazy for jumping to conclusions. But I knew better. The way she lied, the way she tried to dismiss it, she was hiding something. I looked her in the eyes and told her I knew everything. The silence that followed was deafening. She started crying, claiming I was paranoid, that I didn't trust her, that I was making a big deal out of nothing. But I knew her too well. This wasn't just flirtation. It was real, and it had been going on for months. The betrayal cut deeper than I ever thought possible. I thought I knew her. I thought I knew my best friend. Turns out I was completely blind to what was happening right under my nose. After I confronted her, Lisa's face twisted into this fake, bitchy smile. She looked me dead in the eyes and said, "You're overreacting as usual. Jake and I are just friends. You've always been paranoid." Her voice was dripping with sarcasm, like I was just some insecure idiot. But I could see the flicker of guilt behind her eyes, even if she was trying to hide it with her attitude. I didn't buy her lies for a second. I knew she was lying, but I also knew I needed to gather more proof before I did anything drastic. I decided to play along, pretend I was okay for now, but I wasn't going to let her see that she'd broken me. I started paying closer attention to her every move, listening for more clues, watching her bank accounts, and checking her social media activity. It was a whirlwind of emotions: anger, betrayal, confusion, and I was trying to keep it together. A few days later, I noticed something strange. Lisa was unusually anxious about money. She'd always been a spender, but suddenly she was acting secretive about our joint account. She'd make excuses for why she needed cash or why she wasn't home when I expected her. That's when I decided to dig deeper. I pulled up our shared bank account online, and what I saw made my blood run cold. Over the past 2 months, she'd withdrawn close to $200, $0, gone completely silent about it, except for a few vague excuses about emergencies and investments. The money was gone, and I was left with a sinking feeling. I thought about all the plans we'd made, the house, the future, gone, evaporated. I didn't know where she was hiding it or what she was doing with it, but I knew it wasn't good. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach all over again. How could she steal that much money from us? From me? It was like she was trying to erase everything we had built, our life together, my trust, my savings. And then, just when I thought the nightmare couldn't get worse, my sister, Emily, called me out of the blue. She's always been a bit jealous of my marriage, but she's also the kind of person who's not afraid to stir the pot. She told me she was suing me for half of my inheritance, claiming I'd promised her a share in my parents' estate before they died. I couldn't believe it. I'd never promised her anything. It was just another blow. As if everything wasn't bad enough, now I had her trying to take what little I had left. The whole thing felt like a punch to the gut, and I was starting to wonder if I'd ever catch a break. I kept telling myself I had to stay calm, but inside I was furious. Lisa's betrayal was one thing, but now I was facing legal battles and losing my money, my trust, my future. I started to think about revenge, how to make her pay, how to make Jake pay, how to make everyone who betrayed me suffer. But I knew I had to be careful. I had to plan this right. I couldn't just blow up and make things worse. I needed a way to turn the tables, to make her realize she'd messed with the wrong guy. The pieces were falling into place, and I was determined to come out on top, no matter what it took. Over the next few days, I kept everything close to the chest, trying to process how fast my life had unraveled. I couldn't sleep. My mind kept circling back to Lisa and Jake, the money, my sister's lawsuit, everything happening all at once. I knew I needed a plan, something sharp and calculated, because I wasn't going to let her walk away with my life in ruins. That's when I decided to hire a private investigator. I needed concrete proof, something legal and undeniable to show Lisa and Jake were more than just flirting or friends. I wanted recordings, photos, bank statements, anything that would blow their lies out of the water. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was starting to feel the cold, calculated edge of revenge creeping in. The pie was discreet, and within a week I had what I needed. They caught Lisa going into a hotel with Jake late at night, her in a revealing dress, giggling like she was on cloud nine. They also confirmed she'd set up a new bank account, possibly to hide the money. The photos weren't pretty. They showed her kissing him, touching him like she actually wanted to be with him. It was the proof I needed to confront her again, but this time I wasn't holding back. When I showed her the pictures, her face went pale. She tried to deny it, of course, claiming it was just a business trip or just friends hanging out. But I cut her off. I told her I had proof she couldn't lie her way out of. Her bitchy attitude vanished for a second, replaced with panic. She started crying, begging me to understand, claiming I was overreacting, that she loved me, that it meant nothing. That's when I snapped. I told her that love wasn't about secret hotel rendezvous or stealing $200, $0 from us. I told her I'd had enough of her lies and her manipulations. I said I'd be taking legal action to recover the money, and I'd be calling the police if necessary. Her reaction: she threw a tantrum, calling me a jealous, controlling asshole, accusing me of ruining her life. But I didn't care. I felt a strange sense of clarity. This was the end of the line. Meanwhile, I kept digging into her finances, trying to trace where the money had gone. I found out she'd been funneling it into accounts in her sister's name, which was odd because her sister, Rachel, was always a bit shady herself. I suspected they were working together to hide the cash. It made me furious. She'd lied to me from the start, lied about everything, including her own family. The legal battle with my sister Emily was escalating too. She was claiming I promised her a share of the inheritance, but I had proof. I never did. I hired a lawyer to handle the case, and I was determined to fight her off. I wasn't going to let her take what was left of my family's estate. I felt like I was fighting on all fronts, and it was exhausting. But I knew I had to keep going, because if I didn't, I'd lose everything: my marriage, my money, my reputation. All these revelations kept piling up, and I was starting to see just how deep the betrayal ran. Lisa wasn't just cheating on me. She was stealing from me, lying to everyone around us, and dragging my family into her mess. I'd been naive, trusting her blindly, but now I saw her for what she really was: a manipulative, bitchy woman who'd burn everything down just to keep her secrets. I was angry, yes, but I also felt a strange sense of relief. I was finally seeing the truth, and I was ready to fight back with everything I had. The more I uncovered, the clearer it became that Lisa wasn't just a cheater. She was a con artist, a manipulator, someone who'd do anything to protect her lies and her new life with Jake. I started documenting everything, screenshots of bank transfers, the hotel photos, her secret texts, and I kept telling myself that this was all part of a bigger plan. I had to be smart, precise. I couldn't just react emotionally. I needed to strike hard and fast. One evening, I decided to confront her again, but this time I was prepared. I sat her down in our living room, the evidence spread out on my laptop. Her bitchy attitude was still there, but I saw her flicker of panic when she realized I wasn't bluffing anymore. I told her I knew everything: the hotel, the stolen money, the secret accounts. Her face twisted into a sneer and she started lying again, saying I was crazy, that she loved me, that Jake was just a distraction. She even had the nerve to say she was doing this for us, that she wanted a better life, and that I was just too paranoid. I was done listening to her bullshit. I told her she was a lying, manipulative bitch and I was filing for divorce. I also told her I'd be pressing charges for theft and fraud. Her reaction: she threw a glass at the wall, shouting that I was ruining everything, that I didn't deserve her, that she'd make sure I paid for this. Honestly, I felt nothing but disgust. I'd loved her, believed in us, but she threw that all away for some cheap thrill with Jake and a pile of stolen cash. The next day, I went to the bank with my lawyer to freeze all her accounts. I wanted to make sure she couldn't move the money anymore. I also contacted the police about the theft. They confirmed I had a case. I was finally taking control of my life again, but the emotional toll was brutal. I'd gone from being a trusting husband to a betrayed victim in a matter of weeks. I was angry, hurt, and furious all at once. I kept thinking about everything I'd lost: the trust, the future, the money, my dignity. Meanwhile, Lisa was trying to spin things her way, calling me a jealous control freak, claiming I was paranoid and that I'd ruined everything. She even tried to manipulate my friends and family, telling them I was the one at fault, that I was crazy for suspecting her. But I had enough evidence to shut her up. I knew her lies wouldn't hold up for long. And then there was Emily. She kept pushing me to settle, to forgive, but I knew better. I knew she was just trying to get her cut of the inheritance and didn't really care about me. Still, I had to deal with her legal threats, which made everything even messier. I felt like I was fighting a war on all fronts with no end in sight. The betrayal ran so deep I wondered if I'd ever fully recover from it. But I also knew I had to keep fighting. I couldn't let her or Jake or Emily take everything I'd worked for. My life was in ruins, but I was determined to rebuild it, piece by piece. By now, I was pretty much on autopilot, just reacting to everything piling up around me. The divorce was moving forward, and I had my lawyer working tirelessly to get everything sorted out. I was also working with the police to track down the stolen funds. Every day felt like a battle, trying to stay sane, trying to keep my emotions in check, all while knowing I was losing my wife, my best friend, and a good chunk of my savings. Lisa's attempts to manipulate the situation were relentless. She kept calling, crying, pleading that I was ruining her life and that it was all a big misunderstanding. She even tried to spin it as me being controlling, like I was the one who'd betrayed her. I was so sick of her lies I could vomit. I knew the truth now, and I could see her for what she was: a bitchy, selfish woman who'd do anything to save her own ass. The hotel photos, the bank transfers, the secret accounts, they all painted a clear picture. I'd been played for a fool, and now I was fighting to undo the damage. Meanwhile, I had to deal with Emily's lawsuit. She kept pushing for her share of the inheritance, claiming I'd promised her something I never did. I had my lawyer dig into the estate documents, and I found that she'd been trying to manipulate the situation from the start. I knew she was just after the money, not caring about me. It was infuriating. I couldn't believe how many people I thought I knew turned out to be just after my assets. I also started planning my next moves carefully. I knew Lisa wouldn't go quietly. She'd try to manipulate the courts, spin stories, and maybe even try to run away with whatever money she could hide. I had to be prepared for everything. I set up a private security firm to watch the house, just in case she tried to sneak out or take something valuable. I also started documenting every interaction with her, every legal step I took, every piece of evidence I had. I wasn't going to let her destroy me completely. One night I finally sat down and reflected on everything. The pain, the betrayal, the anger. It was all overwhelming. But amid the chaos, I realized I was stronger than I thought. I'd been blindsided, but I wasn't going to let her win. I'd fought for my marriage, my trust, my money, and my future. Now it was about picking up the pieces and moving forward, no matter how hard. I'd learned that betrayal can come from the people you trust most, but I also learned that I had the resilience to fight back. I'd rebuild, even if it took everything I had. And someday, I'd look back at this mess and know I survived. The final stretch was the hardest. After months of legal battles, surveillance, and emotional exhaustion, I finally saw some daylight. The court ruled in my favor. Lisa was ordered to return the stolen money, and her attempts to claim half of my inheritance were dismissed. It felt like a huge weight lifted off my shoulders, but the scars of everything she'd done still lingered. I had lost my wife, my best friend, and a good part of my trust in people. But I also gained clarity. I learned just how far betrayal can cut and how essential it is to stay vigilant and protect yourself. Lisa's reaction was bitter. She tried to fight the court order, claiming she was innocent, that she had been forced into her actions, but the evidence was overwhelming. She refused to accept defeat easily, but in the end, she had no choice. Her lies had been exposed, and her manipulations had failed. I saw her for what she truly was, a selfish, bitchy woman who'd thrown everything away for a fleeting affair and greed. As for Jake, he disappeared from my life entirely. I heard from mutual friends that he'd moved away, probably to escape the mess he helped create. Honestly, I don't care where he went. The damage was done, and I knew I'd never trust him again. The betrayal had shattered the image I had of my closest friends, and I had to rebuild my entire sense of trust from scratch. My sister Emily settled out of court, but her reputation took a hit. I never really forgave her for trying to take my inheritance, but I also knew I couldn't let her ruin what was left of my life. I cut ties with her for a while, focusing on healing myself. I threw myself into my work, started seeing a therapist, and slowly began to rebuild my life. It wasn't easy, but I knew I had no choice. Looking back, I realize I learned some harsh lessons. Trust is fragile, and betrayal can come from the people you least expect. Money can be lost in an instant, especially when greed and deceit are involved. But I also learned that resilience matters. Even when everything seems to fall apart, you can pick yourself up. You can rebuild, even if it takes years. I've come to accept that some scars never fully heal, but they serve as a reminder of what I've endured and what I'm capable of overcoming. Now I'm focusing on myself. I've started fresh with a new outlook, and I refuse to let her or anyone else drag me down again. Life's unpredictable, but I've learned to be cautious, to trust carefully, and to value myself above all. The betrayal was brutal, but it also made me stronger. I won't forget what happened, but I will move forward, wiser and more cautious than ever before. That's how I'm surviving. That's how I'm healing,